What's up, everybody? I just wanted to shoot a little updated video here about Sony Pro Mode. Previously I had shot one on another TV set in a previous location, so we're going to do a new location, new TV, new workflow, so hopefully this all works out. Shooting this on a Sony Action Cam, so no editing, no tricks, all going to be real time, so you'll get a realistic idea about how long this process takes and what brief explanation of what it is we're actually doing here. So if you're using a Sony TV set running the Android operating system from the last few years, and if you hit the home menu button on the remote, this is what you're going to see. Access to, things that we've been watching here on TV. Obviously my kids have been watching lots of YouTube. We got featured apps that are available here on the TV, as well as some of the stuff that I've loaded, some games perhaps in the inputs, and regular menu here. But perhaps you wouldn't like to be able to see all this stuff on your home TV, or you just want to use a single input because you're using distributed video system to get content to the TV, or you'd like to function restriction the TV set just to a specific app or specific input. That's exactly what this particular setting is going to do. So Sony Pro Mode can be accessed by hitting these buttons on the remote. I'm again doing this with no post-production, if you will, so I'm going to be doing this off screen, but I'm going to hit the buttons in the sequence, and again you have to hit the sequence within 2 seconds, and the sequence is display, mute, volume up, and home. And if you've entered that sequence properly, you're going to see the TV respond in a few seconds by powering off, and then the name of the game here is patience. In most cases, you take this TV right out of the box. The TV's never had the software loaded on it before, and you're going to turn on Pro Mode. It may take a few minutes for the TV to come back up and respond normally. My advice to anybody that's setting up a smart TV of any iteration, or regardless of manufacturer, is to sign into the software agreements and the licensing agreements on the TV set. With Android, that means signing into the TV set with a Gmail account. Whether that's a Gmail account that you create specifically just for this TV set or your personal Gmail account, that's completely up to you. But there's a lot of software, there's a lot of licensing agreements, etc. that are associated with that email address. It is definitely a benefit to you in terms of performance and software to keep the TVs current, and again, to sign into those things. Just like your smartphone in your pocket, if you get the firmware and the operating system out of whack, sometimes you run into problems. So now the TV's rebooted itself, and if we hit the home menu button, we'll see it populate here. And again, this TV has only had the only had the software loaded on it one time, so it's it's going to take a little while for it to respond and to behave itself normally. So as we scroll down here through the menu screen, now there's a new option in the main menu. In the main menu here, called Pro Settings. So if we click on that option, and you'll also notice there's a blue banner that's just appeared on the top of the screen that says Pro Settings in Process. That's how you're going to know that you're actually in this mode and you're in the setup stage for the actual Pro performance. So if we go to Pro Settings, this could also be called Restricted Mode. I had some other comments on a previous YouTube video that I shot where people were calling this Restricted Mode. I guess that's another way to look at how this software behaves. So now we've got a new set of options here in the menu. So very first one is actually the very last button that we want to hit, Start Pro Mode. So that's actually the very last thing that we want to do, but it's the very top left button, so we'll just sort of have to remember that as I scroll through the menu here. So if we scroll through kind of to the left, we can initialize Pro Settings, so we can reset everything to default, what the default Pro Mode would be in the TV. We can have a look at how the TV is currently set up. We can actually save these settings to a USB and import them into other TV sets. I'll have to shoot another video that explains how to do the Sony Pro Mode export and import into other TVs. We're not going to do that here today. And then we can also actually have the TV start up on an app that we would have previously loaded on the TV. So when I was referring to signing into the licensing agreements on the TV and signing into the software agreements on the TV, the way that you would be able to load apps that are on the Google Play Store would be by associating the TV with a Gmail account. So again, if you want to use the smart features, you got to sign the TVs into Google. As we scroll down here in the settings tab, we can sort of optimize the TV for what we want it to do. In this particular case, we want the TV to, just work as it normally does, always be on. We do have an option here for always on. So if you were going to, again, maybe put this up as digital signage somewhere, you could have the TV set for always on. You can optimize it to be used with a PC. So instead of being, 16 to 234 for NTSC broadcast, we can optimize the color spectrum from that to 0 to 255, so we can get the full color spectrum that PC can generate versus what NTSC encoding does. We can wake the TV up via a video signal. We can manage what we want the home key to do with the remote. We could point the TV in an NTP server for time code, so we could get a clock or date and time running on the TV all the time. You can actually set this TV up to have apps available, and then, maybe if it was in a place of lodging like an Airbnb or something like that, the people that stay in your home could log into their Netflix or their Amazon accounts, what have you, and then when they turn off the TV, their credentials would expire. So again, you can actually say how you want that to work. Again, in this particular case, you'd have to enter them every time they want to use Netflix, or just leave Netflix turned on, or leave the TV turned on, I guess, for that matter. But again, it's a nice, cool option to have, and another way that you can use Sony TV in a lot of different applications. Startup app, this requires actually knowing what the software information is to launch directly to an application. So you'd have to know what the command strings are to get there. I would, if you're looking for this information, consult your local Sony sales rep firm around the country. You can find those guys by looking at www.sonypremiumhome.com, or reach out to Sony technical support, and you can again get that information, and we can show you guys how to do that. You can lock Pro Mode via PIN. You can utilize, or you can change the behavior of the USBs on the back of the TV set. So maybe you wanted to be able to charge a phone or use a USB mic and webcam, etc. While the TV's in standby mode. We have that option. This is the key one, though, the most actually important option on this row, and again, that's the settings row. We'll scroll back over here, is developer options. So if you wanted to have the TV turn on and off via apps that are on mobile devices, you want to enable this feature. But this is a key one here. Allow app installation and update in the background. By enabling this feature, and again, you'll get this scary message on the screen that says, do you want to change this setting? Your TV could potentially be controlled by malicious apps. Yes, we actually absolutely want to do that. Why? Because we're going to be the only people that are going to be loading apps on the TV is one thing, and the second thing is if you want to keep the TVs updated and current on firmware, by sliding that switch over, it's like acknowledging all of those firmware updates, and the TV will just enable that option for you, or keep the firmware updates rolling in the background, but you don't actually have to respond to any of the prompts on screen. And then if you look down here at the bottom, allow web apps installation. Again, you could set this TV into Pro Mode and turn on, give some smart features if you want. If you don't want to allow that particular option, I would say leave that off, but you can do that here in this particular case. So I'm just going to leave it as I've set it. You can automate kind of the TV a little bit. So if you know that you're going to use just a single input on the TV all the time, you could just say, hey, every time the TV turns on, I want the TV to turn on to HDMI 2, or in my particular case here at my house, HDMI 3. But we want to use HDMI 2. Again, if we picked startup app, we'd have to go and enter the URI of that app to launch a startup app. So we don't have that information, and I'm not going to go into that deep a dive here. So again, in this particular case, we're going to pick HDMI 2. So when the TV boots up, it's always going to go to that input. So for those programmers out there, you integrators out there, you're thinking, oh, that's really cool, because now I could just turn on the TV and it'll always go to the input that I want. I can take that macro step out of my remote control, so my macro actions happen faster for my end users. So just a quick little shortcut there. if you were using the speakers on the TV, you could limit the volume or set the volume limit at, or volume level at power up. Just a cool little option there. And then last but not least is the function restrictions row. Scroll over here, you can enable the remotes on the TVs if you'd like. You can disable the remotes on the TVs. You can disable screen mirroring. You can disable Google Cast. You can get in here to the internal inputs, or excuse me, external inputs on this TV, and you can decide what you want to do with those. So in this particular case, I'm going to say I don't want to use HDMI 1. I don't want to use HDMI 3. I don't want to use HDMI 4, and I don't want the video option available. I only want HDMI 2. I can disable the off-air antenna in the TV. And then in the apps, again, these are only the apps that are going to be loaded on the TV. By default, they're all going to be disabled. So if you don't want any of the smart features on this TV set to be visible in the home menu screen or be functional while the TV's turned on or in any way, shape, or form, that's how you're going to disable all the apps on the TV. So they're all disabled by default. Now that we've got the TV set up the way that I want, go back over here, go up to the top. We're going to pick the Actions and Start Pro Mode. We're going to click OK. And now, again, patience is the name of the game. The TV is going to run through the list of the instructions that we just gave it, and it's going to check off all of those boxes, and you'll actually see on screen the TV sort of responding to what we're doing, and you may see kind of ghost images of inputs disappearing or apps disappearing, etc. When the TV's done doing that, it's going to reboot, and it's going to be running in the Pro Mode. So what we'll be looking for is when the TV turns back on, we'll see the Android screen disappear, and when all that's said and done, the TV will turn back on and go to HDMI 2 and be ready for business. So let's see, watch what happens. See there, you can see the HDMI starting to disappear. TV's checking off the boxes that we've said, you know, defeat this, disable that. And again, we're not in any hurry. So patience, as I said, is the name of the game as we're running here. So this gives me a minute to just sort of plug a couple of the other things that where you can get information about this kind of product. SonyPremiumHome.com, www.sonypremiumhome.com is your one-stop shop for all the resources on Sony high-end home video and home audio gear. So AV receivers, projectors, and of course televisions are all that information is available at SonyPremiumHome.com. Also, if you're looking for firmware updates or software or manuals or anything like that for a Sony product in general, check out esupport.sony.com. You don't need to put www or anything like that. Just esupport.sony.com is your, again, one-stop shop for firmware and manuals and information about legacy Sony product, as well as all the latest and greatest from marketing specs to manuals as well. So now we've seen the Android screen, you know, come and go. It's loaded up on the TV set. TV's going to power up, and we're right up there at HDMI 2. So just like we asked it to, when you turn on, TV goes to HDMI 2, and if I take the Sony menu, or excuse me, take the Sony remote and fire up the menu, that's all that's visible to the end user or to anybody that were to touch the remote. So they could change the language, you could set a sleep timer on the TV, and you can select an input. Again, we told it that we wanted to go to HDMI 2. I get asked quite a bit, what about color controls? What about those options? Sneaky little secret or cool little update that I found out about is if you hit the action menu button, you'll get your options for picture adjustments. And of course, I don't have anything connected to the TV so via HDMI right now. So again, you can see some of the settings that I've got running on the TV. So you can still customize the performance of the set. You can still get you know, better brightness. You can still get, you know, the picture dialed into to your preference. but you know, it's not going to be in the regular menu. So again, if it's going into a professional space or you want it to just be locked down and it's calibrated and ready to go, again, that's why it's hidden there. So now the big question is, well, now that I've got it in Pro Mode, what if I need to get it out of Pro Mode? Cool thing is it's the same sequence, just takes 2 steps to get it back into normal functionality. So I'm going to hit that same sequence again, display, mute, volume up, and home. And now we're going to walk backwards through all the steps that we just took to get it into the correct mode that I was looking for. So you start to see things repopulate in the home menu button. The TV will eventually respond by powering off. Now when the TV reboots, we're still in that launching stage. So we're still in the stage where we've entered display, mute, volume up, and home, and now we're in the Pro settings option. We're still going to take one more step to get all the way back to factory. So it's sort of like you know, a fork in the road to get to the same place functionality wise, or where you want to be, your happy place functionality wise, whether it's the factory way or if it's the, you know, the professional way. The Pro Mode option really kind of gives you that, you know, that extra route to take, but it because it's not factory and it's not for everybody, it takes a couple of more steps to get it into and out of that particular setting. So again, we'll wait for the TV to reboot. Patience is, of course, the name of the game here. As we reboot, we'll hit the home menu button, and we'll see that the TV, again, is back in that settings tab, and there's a restricted profile option if you'd like it. So, you know, we can pick that, and you know, we can say, you know, how we want to create that profile if we wanted to load it again onto the TV. But we're not going to go down that route right now. We just want to put the TV back into the factory settings. Just a quick thing to note, nothing is going to change in this way that you set the TV up previous to what you did in Pro Mode, and then nothing in Pro Mode will stick to the factory settings of the TV. So if you didn't change anything from out of the box, other than signing into the Google agreement and updating the firmware, guess what? It's all going to be right where it was and right where you left it. So how do I get it back out of Pro Mode completely? We're going to hit these buttons here again, display, mute, volume up, and home. And if we've entered the sequence properly, the TV is going to reboot, go back to its original settings. Again, and it may take a few minutes for the TV to do exactly what you want it to do, or you may need it to enter that sequence more than once. I think that's happened to me a few times here. Display, mute, volume up, and home. We'll get the TV to respond and power off. So what's going to do here? It's doing this to me. There we go. See, happens to the best of us. So now that the TV's doing what it's supposed to do, and we've cleared off any notifications or anything weird, and again, that's what I'm saying, patience is a virtue. But as I shoot this video, or as I say this now, I'm not exactly sure how long that's taken us, but maybe 15, 18 minutes complete to get all the explanations out, all the hyperbole out, all the bad jokes out, and get the TV into and completely out of Pro Mode. I think that's a pretty cool option. So if you're an integrator out there, or you're an end user out there, there's a lot of cool reasons just beyond great picture performance, great value per money to go with Sony. Sony gives you lots of options so that you can customize your AV experience, from just built-in smart TV features to tying them into extremely versatile, extremely exciting AV systems. So thanks for watching my little video here. Hope it's informative and enjoyable, and leave some comments in the section below. Thank you.